Okay, now it says setting up your webinar for Facebook Live. I think we're live, but I'm going to wait until this little bar finishes loading to officially say, yes, we're live. And let's see here. Man, it always takes me to a different page whenever I start the live. Okay. Okay, we are now live. And okay. I've got so many video windows open now that it's driving me nuts and confusing me. Okay. Oh, and I see Lydia. So I think, all right, we are all ready to go. Hey, Lydia. So we're going to begin now. And hello, Internet, HP Holo here. And tonight we have a bunch of authors here, and we're just going to talk about tea. So I'll have everyone go down the line, introduce yourself, introduce what you've written, if you have any promos or anything going on. And I guess we will start with Faith Hunter. So have at it.
Okay, I'm Faith Hunter. I write under the Faith Hunter name. I write the Jane Yellow Rock series, the Soulwood series. I've written the Rogue Mage series, and I write the Junkyard Cats series, all of which are in some form of sci-fi fantasy realm. But under my other name, Gwen Hunter, I also wrote women's thrillers and medical thriller series and 20 something books that had no tie whatsoever to the fantasy or science fiction world. So I've written a little bit of everything except tearjerkers and erotica, because I can't write either of those very well. But I have all sorts of things coming out in 2021, starting with Dirty Deeds, which is an anthology with R.J. Blaine, Diana Farrow Francis, and Monk. Devon Monk. I can't believe I almost forgot that. I just couldn't find it in my brain. Not enough tea, obviously. So I have that coming out in January, and then after that will be the second in the Junkyard Cat series, Junkyard Bargain, which will come out as an Audible exclusive, or an Audible original rather. And then I have True Dead, and then I have a compilation coming out, and I think its name is Of Claws and Fangs. So I have a bunch of different projects coming out this year, but only one right away. Soon.
Man, I could fill my entire reading list with just your stuff. Awesome.
I've been doing this a long time. So.
All right, Kimberly, you're next.
Hello, I'm Kimberly B. Richardson. I write dark fantasy. I'm currently with Pro Se Productions. I'm author of the Agnes Meridian Chronicles, Order of the Black Silk, Jackie Verona, which was my first murder mystery series where it's set during the Beat generation. So think like Jack Kerouac and Beatniks and stuff like that. And I also write erotica under a pen name, which the lines are beginning to blur. So I'm starting to put more erotica under my real name, and people are like, I can't believe you wrote that. And I'm thinking, I can't believe you didn't, come on, it's me. In addition to working with Pro Se Publications, I also self-publish a lot of work as well, mostly poetry, and I also do literary work as well. Let's see, new books coming out. Order of the Black Silk 2 should be coming out, if not at the end of this year, early next year. And I just finished working on edits for an anthology dealing with jukes and tonks. So the stories had to be set in either a juke joint or a honky tonk with a little bit of crime in it. Yeah.
Nice.
Love it.
So actually my short story is called Orchids and Chitlin Grease. It just came to me. I will give it a little bit away. Chitlin Grease is the name of the blues band in the story. So.
Fantastic band name. Oh my gosh. Magnificent.
Let's see. I just self-published some erotica, which is called The Pillow Book of a Tea Drinking Napoleonic, and I can't say the other word because we are on Facebook. which has everything from like werewolf erotica to a tea shop in New Orleans. So a little bit of everything. And speaking of tea, I'm also the owner and founder of Radiant Tea Company. So if you've heard about some weird tea chick that has blends like, Spider Witch or quantum mechanics, that's me. And what else? I'm also a certified tea specialist at World Tea Academy, and I'm currently studying to become a tea teacher through the Being Tea Company in Chicago. And I think that's it.
That makes you very appropriate for this panel.
I know just a little bit about tea, just
All right, Lydia, it is your turn.
Well, y'all have to excuse me if you hear any crying in the background. I just put my kids to bed, and they're not as happy to go to bed as I am for them to go to bed. But anywho, gosh, after hearing you two ladies, I mean, you guys don't even need me here. I'm just urban fantasy author. I write the Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus snarky humor magical adventure series featuring a snarky talking cat, which, I mean, who can pass up a snarky talking cat? It's hard to do. And it's got 6 books and a couple novellas and spinoffs out. I'm working on book 7. I'm also working on a co-author project with John Ringo right now, which is a completely different genre. It's like sci-fi action. So it is a little bit different from the urban fantasy I'm writing, but that should hopefully be out sometime next year. And we're getting ready to hand in the draft for that. Tea. My aunt is British, so I have that going for me. And she got kind of my grandmother and my sister into it, and there was food involved, so I eventually got into it too. And then I started writing about tea, so I started actually researching it and trying different blends and stuff. So
nice. And I just realized I forgot to formally introduce myself. I gave my name. H.P. Holo. I wrote The Wizard's Way, which is a steampunk fantasy comedy young adult novel with sword fighting pugs and wizards. And my husband also writes, and the reason why I bring that up is because he's actually doing a promo with DJ Butler and Chris Rocchio and several other authors, where you can basically try to win a bunch of their books. And I'm going to post the link to that in the comments. So if anyone wants to try to win a bunch of sci-fi books, have at it. But for now, I'm going to start our panel with a dark secret of mine, which is I actually don't like tea all that much. This actually started out as a coffee and tea panel, and then I got tea experts and real tea nerds on here, and then I started thinking, okay, I'm going to be the coffee defender, and then realized that it's not that I like coffee so much as I like vaguely milkshake-shaped caffeine. And so I just decided to make it a full tea panel. But you could also take it as a challenge to make me like tea. And so my first question is going to be, what draws you to tea? Because like me personally, I've always viewed tea as kind of one of the grown-up drinks. And I feel like it's a drink that, with the exception of maybe sweet tea in the South, it's something that a lot of people don't really start to legitimately enjoy until they're adults. So what made you like tea in the first place? And let's see, we'll start with Faith.
Well, I used to be a coffee drinker. I drank at least 4 cups of coffee every day by lunchtime. And then my stomach started rebelling and I had no choice but to give up coffee. And that left me with no caffeine except cola, which is also not good for one's stomach. So I said, well, I will try tea. So I started off with all of the bagged kinds and realized that tea had all sorts of different flavors. To me, coffee tastes like coffee. It may be stronger, it may be more mild, but it's still coffee. But when I got tea, all the different teas tasted different. They didn't taste the same. So I sort of began to go to different online tea sites and order different samples of tea. And I realized at one point that I had a huge box. Let's see, can I get my hands in? That big and about that wide and about yay deep, that deep, full of tea samples that were opened and tested and tried. And then I also realized that I had multiple bags of pounds of tea, and I had no place to keep them. So the coffee pot got moved very far away since I wasn't using it anymore. And then there was tea. And I now have a large tea cabinet that's I'm sure compared to Kimberly's tea stuff, mine is nothing. But for me to have a 3-shelf tall cabinet full of tea paraphernalia is pretty surprising. And the first thing I do the first of each month is double check that I have enough tea to get me through this month, and then find out what new thing I can try, new tea I can try, or new decoction I can try. Because I also like herbal teas, which aren't technically teas, but I'll leave that up to Kimberly to tell, because she's the expert here as the certified tea specialist. I'm just a lowly writer who fell in love with tea and sort of I'm drowning in it. I have so much tea.
That's a nice problem to have, though. Kimberly.
Well, I used to be a coffee drinker, and actually I still do drink coffee thanks to the boyfriend who's upstairs. But after a while, I learned about green tea, and I thought, well, I thought green tea tastes like straw. I'm not gonna drink that, whatever. But then I tried Celestial Seasonings green tea with raspberry, and it was like this door just opened. And whenever there's a subject that I'm passionate about or I want to know more about, I really go down the rabbit hole. So I started trying black teas and pu'ers, and oolongs and whites and greens and whatever. And then I discovered tea festivals, which I swear they're like sci-fi conventions, except it's all about tea. Like they'll actually cosplay. It's awesome. And then
There's tea cosplay?
yes, there's tea cosplay.
I have to hear more about this at some point.
I see right now you're Googling tea cosplay, aren't you?
Oh no, I'm sharing the giveaway, but I have like 4 different windows open and I'm confusing
Googling
myself.
tea cosplay right now.
So from there, I learned about Japanese tea ceremonies. I was part of a group when I lived in Memphis, and it wasn't enough. And then I thought, I see all these people with their own tea companies. And one of my mottos is, if everybody else can do it, why can't I? So I started very badly with my first blend, didn't know what I was doing, but then I just kept learning, making mistakes. And now 60 some odd blends later, Viridian Tea Company has been around for 6 or 7 years. My tea blends are inspired by novels, subjects, artwork, music. So like I said, I've got blends that are like quantum mechanics. There was one blend that I made that dealt with astrophysics. Several of my novels have tea inspired by them. And then it kind of expanded from there. I have a partnership with the Manta Trust in England. They work with manta rays, conservation and environmentalism. And in fact, one of the blends that I made is called Mana Dreaming, which all the proceeds go to the Manta Trust. I also work with the licensing group that handles Maya Angelou, and I created a 4 tea blend for them as well. So anyway, it just started from, what is this thing called tea? I heard it tastes horrible, to I can't live without it. And in fact, I hope you guys can't see it, but I have several boxes back here, which is only 1/3 of my collection. The rest of it is in a storage unit in New Orleans, and that's all I'm going to say.
All right, Lydia, your turn.
So the question was, what drew me to tea originally? All are like, oh, I used to drink coffee, and then I discovered tea. I will just say it. I love food, not making food. I love eating food. In fact, I strongly dislike making food. When Heather invited me to be on her cooking panel, I was like, no. I like eating. My favorite food is food that I did not have to make. So my aunt, who married a Brit, got my grandmother, my dad's mom, involved with tea, would send her tea stuff from Britain. Nana would take us to teas when we were little girls, me and my sisters, and there was yummy food there because often in America, you know, our high tea, which is kind of a bastardized version of the English afternoon tea, would have high teas with all sorts of little cakes and little sandwiches and all the yummy stuff. So I'd go because I got yummy food. I don't really care about the tea. But then my little sister would start having tea parties and she would make me food. And so I'd come because I got fed. And then eventually as we grew older, we started doing it more because we enjoyed each other's company rather than because I was being bribed with food. And then I started taking an interest in the tea and I started drinking the tea as a heathen, as my sister put it, because I put sugar in it. And then I started really liking it. I drank mostly herbal teas at first. And I really liked anything fruit flavored. But then I started writing an urban fantasy series with a rabid tea drinker in it. And so I actually started being like, oh man, I should probably research tea and like pretend like I actually know about tea. So I started researching it and just getting to know it more and getting a lot more varieties of tea and trying things out and learning, you know, just like proper brewing methods and everything to, you know, drink it the best way it can be drunk and enjoying it the best way it could be drunk. And of course, collecting delightful tea mugs with cats on them. So there's that.
That actually brings up a good point. I'm actually going to skip ahead to one of my other questions. I feel like a lot of people are indifferent to tea, especially Americans who have never had it prepared well, because they view it kind of as just bitter leaf water. And so I'm wondering, what do you consider the key to preparing good tea? Because I know it can be a finicky drink. So how about we'll start with Kimberly, because you're the tea expert.
Let's see. I tell people there are two sets of rules. There are the rules that are within the tea industry and then your own palate. Like for a black tea, if you let it steep too long, which I would say about anything beyond 4 minutes, then it gets that bitter taste because the tannins are released. So if you've ever like over steeped a black tea and you're wondering why it just tastes really, really bitter and it makes your toes curl, that's why. Like with the white tea is very delicate because it's the least processed. You let that steep for literally a minute. That's it. Maybe a minute and a half. With green teas, again, about 2 to 3 minutes because it's not as processed as a black tea would be. But then again, it's really up to you. So whenever I've had people come to me and they're like, look, I don't know anything about this tepid salad water, which actually somebody said that to me. We're not friends anymore, but they'll never find his body. But whenever I tell people about you know, the steeping times and the brewing times and things like that, I always come back and I say, but it's really up to you. If you like a really strong cup of tea, let it brew as long as you want. If you're just trying it out, about 2 to 3 minutes. So yeah. And the thing is, you can ask 10 different people in the tea industry about steeping time, what makes the best cup of tea. You're going to get 10 different answers. So the bottom line is experiment, have fun with it. It's, you know, what you were saying earlier, people think it's like this adult, you know, highbrow drink. Some people are actually afraid of it. Like they just think, okay, I have these leaves and I have this bowl, now what? It's like, well, have fun with it. You know, smell the leaves, look at the leaves. What do they feel like? What do they taste like? And go from there. So yeah, I hope that answered it. And if not, I'll try again later.
Yep. I think I'm one of those people. I think I'm slightly afraid of tea. Right, Faith, do you have a particular recommendation for how you would make it perfectly?
I actually like bitter. I like the taste. I like bitter things. I like hot things. I like horseradish, and I like celery. I like things with a real sharp edge to them. So I tend to deliberately brew my tea a little longer and a little stronger than most people. And to me, a white tea has no flavor whatsoever. So tonight I'm drinking a mixture of a green tea blend and a honey lemon, honey ginger chamomile. So I put the two together because the green tea has chili peppers, coconut, and lime in it. And that blends really nicely with the decoction that comes out of a tea bag that I got off the shelf, which I don't like by itself. But I brewed it for 10 minutes. I mean, it sat on the tea, hot water sat on the tea leaves for well over 10 minutes. And it's exactly what I wanted tonight. There's no sweetener, there's no anything. And I just a few seconds ago got a hot pepper piece that came through because I just poured it. So I'm using a French press tonight so I can, as you see, it's empty now and the leaves are down in the bottom. And I just got a hot pepper in my mouth. So my a little bit wide while Kimberly was talking. Didn't have anything to do with what she was saying about brew times. It was like, okay, that's really, really hot and I can't spit it out. What do I do now? So I had to swallow it. So I agree with what Kimberly said. You have to decide what works for you. And I like mixing. I like mixing stuff together and getting a different flavor depending on my mood. And I start out with one thing in the morning and it's different by nighttime. I'll change it over totally. Don't have Kimberly's expertise by any means. And most of my attempts at mixing things are dreadful failures. So I tend to go with tried and true standardized loose leaf tea from companies. And I'll occasionally do what I did tonight, which is mix two things together. And it is really, really nice, I have to say, except for that one pepper that got in, which is quite hot.
Yeah, the one you're drinking now sounds like a really interesting combination of flavors. Like I never would have pictured chili pepper and lime in a tea, but that actually sounds like a tea I would like. So
it's a chili pepper, it's a lime, wait a minute, chili, lime, coconut green tea.
I'm going to look that up.
It's really good. And I happen to get mine from Adagio Teas, so you can always just, request a sample of it and try it. I don't recommend teas because everybody's palate's so different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, like if I was starting out looking for a tea and I knew what I liked, I would say, hey, Kimberly, what do you recommend will you put a tea together for me? And I would let somebody who talked me through my tastes and my preferences come up with something for me and send me a couple of samples and let me try something exciting and new. And if it worked, then we could have a Faith Hunter tea. I'm just saying.
Yes. All right, Lydia, do you have any tea brewing advice? It's not brewing, it's steeping. It's tea making. I don't know the tea words.
But would it be a Faith Hunter tea or a Jane Yellow Rock tea?
Well, since Nell also drinks tea,
true.
It would be both. It would have to be Faith Hunter or Jane and Nell, or I don't know. Well, maybe Kimberly and I'll have to chat. I don't know.
Well, I was actually thinking something like that too, because I wrote a steampunk book and tea is just a part of steampunk.
Right.
There could be a Wizard's Way tea. That'd be awesome. All right. Oh, I have a question. This comes from Marcy, and she asks, does the temperature of the water matter? For me, the water has to be boiling hot.
I actually was about to mention that because neither Kimberly nor Faith had mentioned it. And it can matter. But I think it's not quite like Kimberly said, there's like the tea industry and then there's just what you do that works for you. The tea industry says that there's different temperatures you should brew different teas at because some are more delicate than others. And so, 212 degrees, Kimberly, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is boiling. And so most teas are that, most teas are fine at that, but other teas you need to really let the water sit for about 30 seconds to a minute and let it cool down just a few degrees before you pour it over, or else sometimes it'll, Faith doesn't have this problem probably because she likes the bitter, but it'll kind of scald the tea leaves and it'll just get out a lot of the tannins and a lot of the bitterness, which will completely overwhelm the flavor. And then it'll be hard to enjoy it. And of course that differs based on the kind of tea that you're brewing, because there's tea, there's true tea, meaning tea leaves, meaning from the tea leaf plant. And that's black teas for the most part. But there's also red teas and white teas, which white tea's the same plant, but it's processed different. And there is green teas, and then there's herbal teas, which herbal teas is just a catch-all phrase to describe whatever the heck you want that you steep in water. It is literally whatever the heck you want. Lime, chili peppers. I had a lemon zest mojito flavored tea once that was delicious. So the temperature can matter, and it's really easy with the internet these days just to do a quick Google search and just put in the name of the tea. If the tea doesn't have it written on it, a lot of teas have brewing instructions that come with them. Just Google the tea and see what temperature water, or just like Google, how do I steep tea at this temperature? And it's easy to just like wait so many seconds, like 30 seconds, 1 minute after you take it off boiling, and do it that way. So the temperature can matter, not as much as steeping time, I think, but it definitely can matter. And I'm a little bit like Faith. I like my teas strong. I don't really like them bitter, but I do like them strong. If I'm doing an herbal tea, I let it steep 10 to 15 minutes sometimes, especially if there's fruit in it, to get all that fruity flavor out. My black teas, I usually do, I drink a lot of chais and English breakfast and Irish breakfast, and I'll usually steep those 6 to 8 minutes. And sometimes I forget about them and then they steep too long and they're a little bit bitter, but I drink them anyway because I'm like, I will not waste this tea.
Kimberly, do you have anything to add about temperatures?
I did learn once that with regard to the water, if you just get it to the beginning of a boil, that's perfect. Especially in dealing with, I think it was black teas or chai. When you start to have a rolling boil or you get the fish eyes, then you need to turn it off immediately and let it sit for a couple of seconds. But then again, I mean, it's really your preference. I mean, sometimes I have just boiled water and used it for my black teas or even sometimes my white tea, but it's just a personal preference.
I've got a chai that I use a lot, that has whole spice, and it has to, the water has to be a little hotter to get all of the goodie out of that. So I tend to pour it while it's boiling hard, or off the boil, and instead of just before the boil. And I tend to let it steep as long as I want to, because if I get it too strong, I can also add a little more hot water to it, which I know is the curse of people. You don't do that to tea, but if you want to, so there.
Oh, actually, I have one more thing. And this, there's been kind of a debate in the tea industry, but I think the overwhelming majority says this. You can re-steep your tea leaves. Now, of course, with the first cup, that's when you're going to get the most out of your tea, the most flavor, the most antioxidants, all of that. But you can steep, I think it was black, green, all of the teas up to 5 times, and sometimes even more than that. But by the time you maybe to the 10th steeping session, you're just going to get lightly colored water. But yeah, so if you really enjoyed a cup of tea and you don't want to throw that bag away, you can definitely re-steep it. It's not a faux pas thing. It's not.
Nice. We actually have a few other questions that have popped up. One person says, I like sage leaf tea. What is the best way to brew sage tea? And this is from Deborah on Facebook. Does anyone do any of you know in particular? Have you worked with sage leaf tea? I haven't.
I'm not fond of sage except stuffed in a turkey, so.
This question might have to remain a mystery. Sorry, Deborah.
I mean, I'm Googling right now.
Yeah, I'm really curious to try it since it's such a mystery to all 4 of us. Well, you could, if you turn up anything interesting on Google, Lydia, let us know. We also have another question. This is from Mindy on Zoom, who asks, have any of you tried to grow a tea plant? The gardenia flowers are gorgeous, and there's also a beautiful jasmine plant to flavor it. Both are nice house plants. So, have any of you tried to grow tea?
I have a black thumb, so that would be I routinely kill all living things in my house that have roots. If they have legs, they're fine. Like, I'm very good with animals, but if they have roots, then sorry, guys.
So none of us have tried to grow tea. I hear that tea is like kind of like the drink itself. It's kind of a finicky plant to grow. It's I don't remember where I read that, but it seems like there's the tea is really, really sensitive to its environment. But I may just be making that up. Who knows?
Well, no, that's actually true, because that's one of the reasons why tea can only be grown. Healthy tea that produces good leaf can only be grown in certain regions, at least in large quantities. And why, China and India are so famous for their teas, because it likes a certain climate, first of all. And second of all, yeah, for something like a tea with so much flavor in it, what's in the soil, and the minerals and things that it gets in it from the water and from the soil, do actually play a large role in the taste of the tea, which is why you can only get certain varieties of certain flavors of like oolong teas and tea varieties from China from certain places, because the soil acidity and the soil content is different in these different places, and it changes the flavor of the tea. Now, I probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference, because I'm just a fan of tea. I'm not like a tea master or anything. But for people, like especially in China and other places in the world where they drink tea much more regularly and it's a much larger part of their culture, it's definitely, just like fine wines. An average alcohol drinker isn't able to tell the difference, but a wine connoisseur can absolutely tell the difference. And the soil content changes the taste of wine flavor. So it's the same with teas.
And actually, since the tea industry is expanding and more and more people are drinking it, there are other countries that are kind of stepping up to the plate in terms of growing the Camellia sinensis. New Zealand is becoming a rather important player with the tea industry. I tried, I think it was an oolong and a breakfast blend from New Zealand, and it's very, very different than what you would get from, say, China or Taiwan or Sri Lanka. Another area is Hawaii. I tried a Darjeeling. I know it was either a Darjeeling or a green tea that was grown on a plantation in Hawaii. And again, very different tastes, but because they had the proper climate and they knew what they were dealing with, it was a very good cup of tea. So yes, you do have your standards. You have China, which is Camellia sinensis. You have India, which is the Camellia sinensis and Samaka. Then you have Sri Lanka, and like I said, all the other countries. But surprisingly, more and more countries, and even there's a remote area in Scotland that's trying to grow tea and trying to have a plantation.
Wow.
And people are saying, you're kidding, this is Scotland. It's
That
not
climate.
going to work. But I can't remember the name of the farm or the plantation, but they're determined. And I
Wow.
don't know if they've actually completed the growth process or not, but last time I heard, they were definitely
Wow.
doing it. Yeah.
Hey, more power to them. I mean, the more places we can grow tea, the different flavors and varieties we'll have. I think it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay, here's a simple one. What's your personal favorite kind of tea? And let's see who this is going to be a tough one. I see. Let's start with Faith.
I like a chai. If I'm just going to be sipping tea and I'm going to make a whole pot and I'm going to drink the whole pot by myself, which I do every day at least once. First thing in the morning, I want chai. I want the chai because I like a little cream with my morning tea, and I like a little sugar with my morning tea. And somehow the chai wakes me up without it being a sudden shock to my system. And so I like a really good, strong, slightly oversteeped chai with a little creamer and not cream, but a little creamer and a little sweetener. And I use stevia because I don't particularly like the flavor of sugar, oddly enough. But then as the day goes by, I may have something else. I like a golden monkey, which is see, Kimberly is really good. Golden monkey in the afternoon. I also like a golden monkey iced. I make a gallon of golden monkey and drink it over ice, and it is fabulous. I think it's wonderful. It's my favorite tea in the world to drink iced. So it just sort of depends on my mood. I have a lemon meringue, which I detest because it didn't work. The sample was wonderful, but when I got a pound of it, so if anybody wants to try, I have a pound of lemon meringue tea, which is a green tea with a lemon meringue flavoring, and it didn't work for me. So it's lemon and vanilla. I've got a lemon citron, which I love. It's a green tea with lemon and lemon zest and orange zest in it, and a little bit of lemongrass, and it's really tasty, and I like it in the evenings. So it just, I don't know how to answer that question, because for me, tea is as much mood and the way what my body's asking for is anything else. Of course, now what we know now is that green tea is wonderful with their antioxidants for fighting off COVID. So green tea, muscadine grapes, and dark chocolate. So I am in heaven. I'm drinking a lot more green tea since that came out, and I have dark chocolate in my refrigerator.
That's really handy information. I might actually start drinking more green tea myself because of that. Kimberly, how about you? What's your favorite tea?
I've got two. Number one is definitely a matcha. I love drinking that in the morning time. And for those of you who don't know, matcha is, it's a Japanese kind of green tea where it's the powder. If you ever do a Japanese tea ceremony or see them with a bamboo whisk, it's going to be the matcha. And another one would be, I love a good oolong. Love oolong. I don't know what it is about the taste, but it sends me over the moon. So matcha and oolong for me.
Oolong with sushi, especially.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, so
You've
good.
just sold me on oolong, because sushi is basically a food group in my house. All right, Lydia, what's your favorite tea?
Well, Heather, I'll have to third the oolong here. I actually have some oolong from China that I picked up in 2008 when I was in, Shandong province in Qingdao. And I had no idea what it was when I bought it. It was before I was into tea. I just like, oh, tea, I should probably buy some tea while I'm in China. So, little packets of tea with very traditional Chinese writing on it, which I never could translate it because it was an older script that I've never learned how to I took Chinese in college, for anyone who didn't know. So I was over there studying Chinese, and I could speak modern Chinese, standard modern, oh gosh, now I'm getting mixed up with modern standard Arabic, Mandarin Chinese, but there's a traditional form in the characters that is used to be used longer ago and is now, they use a simplified form. So I've never been able to read the packets, but I identified it by its taste. So I started making it. I'm like, oh, I have all these old packets in the back of my cabinet. I started making it. I'm like, oh man, that's oolong. And it's just such a smooth taste. Like even when you brew it a little bit too long, it's not as quick to get bitter as some of the others. And it's just a very smooth, full taste. And sometimes people describe tea as smoky, like Assam's and some like Russian Caravan, describe like a smoky kind of almost musky taste. But the oolong is just very smooth, very full-bodied. It's just a good tea, all around good tea. So I would definitely recommend you try the oolong. And I do like it. I don't have it very often. I'm kind of, I guess, so influenced by my British relatives. I basically just drink Irish breakfast all the time, all day long. So I drink a lot of Irish breakfast because it's quick and easy and I like it. But I do really like chais as well. And Faith, I have to ask you, have you had an opportunity to have much chai as it's brewed traditionally in India, which is not in a tea packet? It's loose spices boiled in milk and water, and I don't know if it's traditionally made with honey or sugar, but traditionally made chai is halfway, I think, between coffee and tea. And I would also recommend you try that out, Heather, if you like coffee. Chai tea doesn't really taste like chai. It's like a milky spicy. I mean, you've probably, you know, at like coffee stops and Starbucks, they'll sell like, you know, chai stuff, and you don't.
Yeah, like chai lattes and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, chai latte. So it's kind of halfway between a tea and a coffee. So that's a good bridge, I guess, for you if you want to get into chais and actually look up the traditional brewing. It's not that hard. You just have to individually, you know, combine the spices, and it's stuff like cardamom, ginger and black pepper and oh gosh, I think it is cardamom. I'd have to look it up, but
It is.
there's a couple traditional, cardamom. There's a couple traditional spices that are always used, and there's different variants and different other spices you can throw in, along with the black tea base, and then the milk and the, you know, whatever sweetener. I think it's usually honey that they use, but it's a very, very different taste than your average tea, especially your
I've had that.
British tea. Yeah, it's really good. I have a wonderful gentleman that I go to church with, Mr. Dongerdive, who is from India. Sorry, I have a newborn and pregnant brain is still affecting me. So words. Yes, he's from India, and whenever we go over to his house, he brews this chai tea the way he drinks it at home, and I just like, ooh, John, are you making chai tea today? You know, because it always tastes better when he does it. Like I try it, but he does it better. So
Nice. I'm slowly learning that maybe it's not that I don't like tea. Maybe it's just that I haven't found the right tea, because there's so much variety here. So I'm intrigued now. I've improved my life by running this panel, I feel like.
well,
We haven't.
Heather, I have to say one more thing. As the cat in my book say, there's no such thing as dog people, just cat people who haven't met the right cat. I would say there's no such thing as coffee people. There's just tea people who haven't met the right tea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's especially true too, considering how many people on this panel started out as coffee people and then like leveled up into tea people at some point. So this is cool. We have another question from Facebook. This is from Isaac. And it's, what's your opinion on organic tea versus non-GMO tea versus generic brand teas? Ooh. Anyone have anything to offer on that one? How about I can't remember who went first last time. How about Lydia?
I will say is probably the most non-fancy of all the tea drinkers on this panel. I don't personally have a preference. I don't know that I've ever actually drunk any organic teas that I knew were organic when I was drinking them. Actually, now that I say that, let me back up a little bit. I've subscribed to SIPSBY, SIPSBY, which is a monthly tea box. They send you 4 tea varieties every month in a box. You can customize your preferences in teas. And it's a lot of fun. You discover some really cool new teas, and it's really expanded my palette. And most of the teas that they send are organic teas, and I really liked a lot of them. They're high quality teas. So I would definitely say that organic is good, and that organic is probably going to be a little bit better. But for the average person, it probably won't make a lot of difference. So if you don't really care, or maybe you're on a tight budget, I wouldn't worry too much about organic. But if you really want to get into teas and get into like, you know, the finest of the fine, and you have that flexibility, then organic is definitely a great way to go. I don't know about GMO or non-GMO. I've not ever tasted a tea that was that specific, but definitely organic.
Kimberly, do you have anything to add on that one?
Not really. I don't really deal with a lot of organic or GMO teas. So rather than kind of make up something, I'm just going to say Lydia's right. Listen to her.
How about you, Faith?
No earthly idea.
I would say to check out SIPSBY. It's a pretty cool service. I think it's $15 a month. So, you know, it's a little pricey just for getting 4. You get 4 packets of each variety. So it's 16 servings of tea. But they send you some really interesting, really exotic, and a very wide variety of teas. Like I got a matcha tea. I got these weird little cakes of tea, like little heart cakes of tea that you drop in and start. And just a lot of really different teas that I'd never encountered or even heard of before. So it was, I don't do it every month now just because I'm busy with little kids and don't get a chance to do it. So I paused my membership. But if you can afford it, it's a really fun service. So.
That actually leads nicely into my next question, which is, do any of you have a favorite tea brand? How about Kimberly? We'll start with you. other than your own brand, because we
No, this is her chance to plug her brand.
well, obviously plug your brand. But do you have any that you like?
Oh.
I feel like your own brand would be the default. Yes, go buy all Kimberly's teas, everybody.
Now, I will say this, and not because I just moved to Colorado, but I do like Celestial Seasonings. I know that a lot of their teas are herbal and, very, hey man, hippie, but they were the ones that kind of opened the door for me in this whole tea experience. So I have to give them a nod. Also, Harney and Sons, they're considered to be a little bit more highbrow. But they do have a wide variety of teas. In fact, when they did the remake of Murder on the Orient Express, they actually did a Murder on the Orient Express tea blend, which was kind of like a lapsang shu song, which is kind of like a smoky pine needle kind of tasting tea. So, but yeah, aside from that other company that I started, I would have to go with Celestial Seasonings and Harney and Sons, definitely.
And the name of your tea company is?
I wasn't going to brag.
Oh yeah, feel free to brag. You're on a tea panel. Yeah, in fact, it just occurred to me that I didn't include your website in the information, so feel free to share it on in the comments and whatnot. I'll actually add it to the panel description too.
And then there's my company, Viridian Tea Company, named after the color Viridian, Viridian. I have, like I said, over 60 blends. I range from herbal, rooibos, all the way up to Assam or black. I also do custom tea blends if you're looking for something in particular. So, and then, yeah. But yeah, if anybody wants information or if they want the link, I can type it into the chat.
Yes, please do. And Faith, how about you?
I like Adagio teas simply because there is a across the board steadiness in the flavor from season to season, from year to year. If I order their masala chai, it's going to taste the same. And if it doesn't, I can call and say, my tea tastes odd. I just opened a new one and this is what it tastes like. And they'll say, oh, it was, this is a new mix. Open the bag, leave it open overnight on the counter, and then close it up in the morning and it'll taste fine. And they were perfectly correct. It was just still slightly damp from all of the things that were mixed together. So I do enjoy just the consistency of flavor that I get with Adagio. I also, when I travel, I'll use a tin of loose leaf. What is that company? Hang on. I put it over here. Tea Forte. They have a good Bombay chai and it's really good. You can cook it in milk as Lydia was talking about doing, or you can just do it in regular water, and it's really good. I like my chai with added peri peppers from Portugal, not from California, because like with teas, the flavor's different. I like peppery tea, so I add peri peppers to most of my black chai teas.
All right, let's see. I think we are getting close to the end of our session, and I do have a few more questions. My next one is, do you guys have any tea drinking rituals that you follow? Like, you have a favorite place to sit, favorite cup, favorite time of day you like to drink tea? Though I think for a lot of you, it's like all the time, every day. But let's start with, who are we starting with this time? Let's start with Faith.
I do have favorite tea mugs. These are cheap across the board. They came in all different colors. They're not made this way anymore. They're nice, thick stoneware with a glaze on it. They're the same color inside as outside. They don't stain with the tea in it. And I love these mugs. When I pick it up, it fits my weird little hand. And it's perfect for holding, and I have inflammation in my knuckles. So this is the perfect shape handle for me to hold with my when I have, especially when I have inflammation. And I love this teacup. I have, you see, I stroke it. I have 8 that are this color, and then I have 7 because I broke one that are teal, and they stay on that wonderful little cabinet I was talking to you about, where all of my tea supplies go. And I love them. And I will be very, very sad when they are all broken and chipped and can't be used anymore, because they're very comfy on my fist.
How about you, Kimberly?
Well, let me preface by saying I'm a very big octopus fan. So my favorite mugs are the ones with octopuses on them. There's one that I have in particular. It says bibliophile, and it's an octopus holding 8 different books. And for some reason, the tea just tastes better in that mug. I don't know why. And I also have another mug when I first came to Colorado. It's moose, it just says Colorado, and across the moose is the Colorado state flag. So between my octopus mugs and my moose mug, my tea is, yeah. My tea just tastes fantastic in them.
Nice. How about you, Lydia?
I'm gonna take this over to my tea cabinet and hope that I can figure out how to turn this camera around. Oh, goody. My tea cabinet is not all that huge and exciting, but trying to find, here we go. I have a tea mug given to me by my grandmother that is the Queen of England's Jubilee, Golden Jubilee celebration tea mug that my aunt bought for my grandmother. And I wrote on the bottom so that I could remember, like, commemorate, the occasion. I actually almost never use it because I'm terrified of breaking it, and it's one of the few things I have left of my grandmother, who passed away in 2016. But my normal tea mug, all these 11-ounce tea mugs are just kind of dinky. They're not big enough. I drink way more than that. So this is my like 20-ounce mug. I believe about 20 ounce, has a cat on it, of course. My husband has a gigantic 30-ounce mug that I got for him because he was complaining about the same thing. It says meowgical in there. And sometimes I use that, but only if I'm like sitting down to write for the long haul or something like that. So usually it's my 20-ounce that I use, and then occasionally steal my husband's large tea mug. But I usually make tea when I'm getting ready to sit down to write. It's sort of like my ritual to help get me into the rhythm for writing. Or in the morning sometimes, if I have 2 things happen at the same time. I'm super tired because of my kids, but I have like a spare 5 minutes to make tea to recover from my kids, because usually it's just tired and no time to make tea. So I don't often get tea in the morning because gotta love those kids. So.
Oh, it occurs to me that the only time I've actually made tea is when I'm sick. Like my go-to for some reason, whenever I have colds, it's peppermint tea, and that's the only time I drink tea, and then I'll chug it. But yeah, I guess that's the closest thing to a tea story that I have. All right, we've got time for one more question, and so I'm going to end with a really easy little one. What's your opinion on loose tea versus bagged tea?
Little question? Excuse me?
Oh, have I touched upon a controversial topic?
You have.
Okay. Have at it, Lydia.
Well, I mean, I personally don't have a huge aversion to bag tea, but it is a very controversial topic among tea drinkers. Well, serious and or snooty tea drinkers, which there's nothing wrong with being a snooty tea drinker. If you're going to be, fanatic about something, go for it. But it can definitely be a topic of contention. I will say that generally, loose leaf tea is going to be a higher quality tea simply because it is the higher quality leaf generally, because generally, like, especially if you buy a big box of, a generic tea at the grocery store, it's like the tea leavings. It's like the crumpled, like, remains of the tea leaves, almost a powder in some instances. And so you're just not going to get as good of a taste out of that as you are loose leaf, which is why it costs less. So, you know, they all have their place and they're still very enjoyable as bag tea. But one thing I like, because I like the convenience of a bag, is I got started on this with Sipsby. They send little like organic bags with their loose leaf. So you can take the loose leaf and put it in the bag, because usually the balls, like the metal balls that you put tea in for loose leaf, the holes are big enough that little bits of tea get out, and I hate little bits of leaf.
Yeah, I get that whenever I do loose
Yeah,
leaf
and
tea.
so the solution is using these little bags. They're like a biodegradable, you know, organic little bags that they send with the loose leaf tea. And so I just put a portion of tea in the little baggie and tie it off, and then use that and throw it away with a clear conscience. So
Cool. Kimberly, how about you? Do you have a preference on loose versus bagged?
I used to do bag because it was easy, but then I discovered you can actually make good loose leaf tea with a French press. So for me, it is very much loose leaf tea all the way. If I don't have access to a French press, then I have an infuser that I take from my boyfriend every so often. But we're both loose leaf people.
What would you say is the difference in taste between a tea ball and a French press if you're making the same tea in both?
Some people complain that if they use an infuser, a metal ball infuser, you get that tinny taste to it. Again, I just think it really all depends on the manufacturer of the infuser. I've seen some infusers where it's the clamp ball, and some people complain about that because some of the loose leaf tea comes out of the ball. But yeah, now the infuser that we have, it is metal, but you can't taste the metal in your tea.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, it really is personal preference. Now, if you want to make several cups of loose leaf tea, but you don't have an infuser, then I highly recommend either a French press, or if you have a small coffee maker, that works too.
Cool. All right, and last one, Faith, what's your opinion on loose versus bagged tea?
I prefer loose leaf, and my pot, I have a kettle, an electric kettle, that I pour over the loose tea, which is in a strainer, like one of, well, you see how old that is? That's gold. And so you see it's very stained stuff. And then there's this metal one, which, oh, I see on there is also very stained. Pour it over the leaves into a pot, and you know, like one of those back there, and I let it sit the proper amount of time, and then just lift my little strainer out, and all of the leaves come with it, and it's very neat and very tidy. And then when I travel, this is my travel French press, and it's also my afternoon press if I just want a single cup of tea. So this is the way this works. For those who don't know, you put your tea leaves in here, and you pour the hot water over it, the boiling water over it, and you put the top down, and it steeps, and then you very gently squish all of the goodie to the bottom, and you pour your tea out. So I travel with that because I can stick a pair of socks or two into it and wrap other things around it, and it so far hasn't broken in luggage.
Nice, nice. All right. Well, we are close to an hour now, so I think I'm going to draw this to a close. So thank you all for joining me tonight. This was a lot of fun. And just again, for the audience, tell us who you are, what you wrote, and that'll be it for tonight. So we'll start with, we'll just go down the line, same as we did last time. Faith.
I'm Faith Hunter. Currently I write the Jane Yellow Rock series, the Soulwood series, the Junkyard Cat series, and did write the Rogue Mage series, all of which are sci-fi fantasy.
All right, Kimberly.
I'm Kimberly B. Richardson. I write dark fantasy, literary, mystery, cyberpunk, and erotica.
And Lydia.
I'm Lydia Sherrer, and my main series is the Love, Lies, and Hocus Pocus, the Lily Singer Adventures, urban fantasy with a snarky talking cat, and working on some sci-fi adventure with John Ringo. So you can find me at lydiasherrer.com, or I'm sure you can find all of us on Amazon or wherever other books are sold.
All right. And again, thank you all for joining me tonight. And I hope everyone has a good evening after this. Bye.
Bye.
Night.